I knew I was screwed the moment the new VP called compliance admin noise and smirked like he'd just discovered gravity. But that's not where the real kick in the teeth landed. That came 20 minutes later when I found my termination paperwork printed, double-sided to save trees, sitting on top of my lunch in the shared fridge. Tuna salad still cold. Severance colder, that's me. Nina Collins, 44, divorced twice. Senior compliance analyst at ABG Biosolutions. Or, I guess, former senior compliance analyst. I'd been at that company for 9 years, long enough to see 3 CEOs, 2 corporate rebrands, and enough PowerPoint lies to drown a small village. My job wasn't glamorous, but it was crucial. You know, all that biotech innovation magic that gets investors drooling and regulators nodding? Yeah, it doesn't happen unless someone, quietly and without screwing it up, keeps all the licenses, filings, and state-level approvals running like clockwork. That was me, the ghost in the cubicle. No one noticed me until I left, and then they noticed everything. But before I dive into the mess, real quick, if you're one of those folks listening without subscribing, come on, hit that button. Throw us a like while you're at it. Keeps our little storytelling engine running and helps the crew sleep at night without whispering algorithm like a haunted prayer. Seriously, we appreciate it more than Trent appreciated decaf. Anyway, let me walk you through the kind of hell only a seasoned compliance gremlin like me can manage. Picture this, middle of Q2, abs flying high. We've got 3 compounds in phase 2 trials, fresh round of VC money being dangled like a carrot on fire, and the CEO's quoting our $50 million valuation like it's tattooed on his bicep. And in the middle of all this chaotic optimism, me, quietly renewing the California biologic manufacturing license before the June 30th deadline, like I have every year since 2016. I didn't ask for applause. I didn't even ask for a working printer. I just did my job. And Trent shows up. Trent Barker, VP of Strategic Growth Initiatives, which is corporate speak for lay people off and make it sound like progress. He swaggered in fresh from some acquired startup, all tailored pants and enthusiasm. Drank triple-shot Americanos like they were holy water. Called stand-ups energy circles. Real peak tech bro nonsense. Within a week, he'd reorganized 3 departments, cut half of procurement, and replaced the diversity committee with culture captains. The man once used the phrase compliance theater in a Slack thread and actually added a popcorn emoji. The first time he looked at me, he blinked like I was part of the furniture. Remind me again what you do? He asked. On a Tuesday, I remember only because the coffee machine broke and I nearly cried. State and federal filings, IP-related license renewals, clinical compliance audits, everything that touches regulatory risk. He nodded like he'd just heard someone say blah blah clipboard blah. By Thursday, he decided my position was legacy overhead. No warning, no exit interview, just a meeting invite titled alignment chat and a cold-faced HR rep clutching a sad little envelope with my name misspelled. I was out by noon. No one cried. No one even looked up. I wasn't even angry. Not at first. More. Dazed. Like someone had hit me with a pillow full of bricks. I packed my things, 2 plants, a stress ball shaped like a pancreas, and a sticky note that said don't forget to file Idaho by Friday. I guess I don't have to now, but here's the thing. Before I left, I did one last thing. Not revenge, not sabotage, just precision. I opened up the California renewal. It was due in 6 days. The authorized licensing agent line still had my name, Nina Collins, typed in black Arial. I clicked, deleted, typed in Trent Barker, didn't forge anything, didn't hide it, sent the form, saved the confirmation, logged out. Compliance is about accuracy, and technically he was now the acting VP. So technically he should be the agent of record, right? No malice, no drama. I dropped my badge off with reception, walked past the big poster that said innovate fearlessly, stepped into the June fog, and that's when the real storm began. Trent Barker made his grand entrance like a TED Talk cosplayer who'd snorted one too many productivity podcasts. First day on the job, he showed up in a Range Rover with plates that said MVEM, wearing shoes so polished I could see my 9 years of underpaid loyalty reflected in the toe caps. He breezed through the front lobby like he owned the air and fist-bumped the janitor on the way in. Not out of respect, just to prove he was one of the team. By 9:30, he'd already changed the Monday calendar, invite from weekly sync to ABG huddle, complete with emoji. By 10 o'clock, he was holding court in the all-hands like he was launching a crypto startup instead of taking over operations at a biotech firm with 3 FDA audits in the pipeline. Let's kill legacy thinking, he said, sipping oat milk like it was bourbon. Let's be lean, mean, and regulatory. Clean. But make no mistake, compliance is important. It's just a necessary drag, like flossing. Nobody likes it, but you gotta do it right? Laughter, nervous, from the newer folks. The older employees glanced at each other, wondering which team he'd gut first. I just stood in the back, arms crossed, already knowing the answer. He didn't call on me during the meeting, didn't mention compliance by name, but the way his eyes skated past mine like I was part of the exit signage told me everything. At 11:47 a.m., my Outlook pinged with a calendar invite. Chat with Trent 15 mins. No subject, no body, no smiley face. Just the scent of incoming layoffs masked with eucalyptus oil from the HR diffuser. I walked into his new office, glass walls, Herman Miller chair, some absurd standing desk treadmill hybrid already humming under his loafers. He gestured to the chair like a game show host who just spun the wheel of misfortune. Nina. Nina, Nina, he said like we were old friends instead of two people who'd exchanged exactly 0 words before this week. Listen, first off, thank you. Seriously. I looked over your file. 9 years, right? That's commitment. I nodded silent. That said, he leaned back, laced his fingers behind his head like he was about to tell me I'd won a cruise. We're restructuring. Compliance is being rolled into legal. We're going lean. It's nothing personal, just overhead. Looked at him, just looked. I didn't blink. My heart didn't race. My throat didn't close. I said, understood. What I didn't say, your ignorance is radioactive and it's about to infect every asset this company pretends to know how to manage. He smiled like that was that, like he just told me they were out of ranch dressing in the cafeteria. Great. HR has the exit package. I'm sure someone will send you the Slack goodbye thread. I stood, and my knuckles turned white. White from gripping the arms of the chair so hard, I could feel the shape of the screw beneath the upholstery. White because I wasn't going to let this pipsqueak see me shake. White because this man, this latte-swilling, startup-worshipping MBA mannequin, just decapitated the one person holding the company's regulatory head above water. I stepped out without a word, walked straight past the ping-pong table someone apparently thought would boost morale, made a sharp right into HR. They were waiting. Of course they were. Folder prepped. NDA highlighted, envelope sealed. Do you have any questions? The rep asked, in the same tone someone might use while asking if I needed ketchup with my fries. I didn't. I took the envelope, signed the paperwork, turned in my badge. But as I walked past the compliance server room, 4th floor, door marked authorized only, I smiled just barely. Not because I was glad to leave, but because I already knew the next 30 days would burn like hell for anyone dumb enough to call compliance a necessary drag. And Trent? Trent had just become the authorized agent of record. Hope he likes mail from the State Licensing Bureau. The hallway outside HR smelled like cheap air freshener and closing time. Not the poetic kind of closing time, either. The kind where your name is erased from Outlook and your security badge stops beeping before you've even hit the parking lot. Still, I had a few things left to finish. Not for them, for me. I rode the elevator back to my floor alone, cardboard box under one arm, severance folder under the other. No one looked up from their screens. No goodbyes, no cupcakes. Just the soft, sterile hum of people pretending they hadn't heard what happened. Back at my desk, still mine for maybe 20 minutes, I sat down and opened my compliance queue. 57 open tasks. Regulatory filings, license renewals, jurisdictional updates. Stuff nobody noticed unless it went wrong, which it was about to. I wasn't planning revenge. I wasn't angry, not in the fireworks sense. What I felt was colder than that, precise, like the snap of a rubber band being stretched too long. I cleaned up the queue, closed out the little ones, flagged the international renewals for review, transferred my open audits to a shared drive Trent wouldn't know how to access even if someone hand-fed him the URL. I even left instructions on who to contact at the EPA for questions about reagent handling. I'm not a monster. But then I reached it. California Biologic License #CB4097, annual renewal due June 30. And there it was, like it had always been. Authorized licensing agent, Nina Collins, my name, my signature, my regulatory bloodline. I clicked edit, deleted the name, typed in Trent Barker. I didn't forge it, didn't fake a thing. I didn't touch the verification letter he was supposed to submit. I didn't upload any supporting documents because I couldn't. That's his job now. He's the agent after all. I hit save. The system pinged back a success notice. No errors, no flags. I attached it to the internal tracking log with the note, updated per org change, awaiting re-verification by new agent. That's it. The form was still legally accurate. It just wasn't complete anymore. Because Trent Barker, VP of Strategic Growth Initiatives, had no clue that being the authorized agent meant you had to send in wet ink notarized documentation to 6 different agencies within 7 days, or the license evaporated like steam off a hot sidewalk. I logged out, deleted my Chrome history, ejected my encrypted USB. I stood up and took one last look around the space where I'd poured nearly a decade of my life. The framed Dilbert comic someone pinned to the break room door. The window I used to stare out of during conference calls where people talked in circles. The beat-up label maker I used to tag files that no one ever read but absolutely needed to exist. Then I picked up my box, walked down the hall, and dropped my badge off with Marcy at reception. She smiled, the kind of tight, regretful smile you give someone whose dog just died but you still owe $5. You were always one of the good ones, she whispered. Sliding the badge into a drawer, I nodded, didn't trust my voice. Outside, the fog had thickened. June gloom had rolled in hard, wrapping the ABG campus in a blanket of gray. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I didn't flip off the building. I just walked into that fog like it owed me nothing, because it didn't, and because the paperwork I left behind was about to make very sure it owed Trent everything. First ping came Monday morning at 8:12 a.m. New York State portal flagged a name mismatch in the licensing chain. Nothing catastrophic, just a digital cough. Automated email fired off to legal. Missing notarized verification for new agent, Barker Trent. Standard stuff if you knew what you were looking at. But no one did. Because the one person who did was at home, barefoot, pouring Chardonnay into a mug that said I survived the 2018 audit. I didn't check my inbox. I didn't check Slack. I deleted the damn app. Felt like pulling in Roman 4 out of my arm. At AB, meanwhile, the cracks were spreading under the floorboards. By 10:42 a.m., Missouri's portal kicked back a red flag on biologic compound Group 2B, one of our sexiest trial assets, a gene therapy compound so full of investor buzzwords you could make a TED talk just saying its name slowly. The alert? License renewal pending agent reverification. Translation: we can't let you keep working on this compound until you tell us who the hell this new guy is and why he hasn't submitted squat. That same afternoon, Clinical Ops received a soft freeze notice from MedStat Clinical Partners, one of our biggest third-party trial firms. They flagged regulatory inconsistency in agent documentation and paused enrollment on 2 active trials. The official email was polite. The subtext was not. We're not risking our necks for a company whose paperwork smells like amateur hour. Inside ABG, Legal's group chat lit up. Wasn't Nina the point on all state verifications? I thought she trained someone before she left. Who's Trent Barker? No one said it out loud yet, but the smart ones started sniffing. Tuesday morning, a second MedStat notice came in, this one CCing our CFO. Engagement paused pending clarification of authorized representation. Trent, still buzzed on his own efficiency, waved it off in a 10-minute alignment sprint meeting. It's all handled. Just a few back-end hiccups, he said, tossing a tennis ball against the wall like he was practicing for an invisible dog. I'm syncing with legal. Nothing to worry about. No one looked convinced. Especially not legal, who by then had realized no re-verification paperwork had been submitted by Trent or anyone. That's when the whispers started, not loud, not accusatory, just pointed. Did anyone see her train a replacement? Wasn't she the registered agent? Why would she list him? She wouldn't just walk away with it half done, would she? But Trent kept smiling. The kind of smile that forms a helmet around panic. He scheduled a town hall to reinforce transparency, used words like synergy and compliance realignment and onboarding enhancements. Nobody asked why the license portals weren't aligned. Nobody except legal. Back in my apartment, I was halfway through a bottle of cheap white and knee-deep in a puzzle shaped like a flamingo. I hadn't answered a single text from coworkers, not the fake ones, not the ones who suddenly remembered I existed. One message did come in that I read twice. From MedStat's regional coordinator, "Hey Nina, hope all's well. Quick cue, did you transition the license paperwork for CB 4097 before you left? There's a signature mismatch and we weren't sure who to ping." I stared at it, took another sip, thought about responding. Didn't. Instead, I muted the number and turned my phone face down. Let them find their own damn answers. Let the system speak for itself. Because every license I ever handled had a paper trail, a signature chain, and an invisible hand guiding it. And right now, that hand had left the building. And Trent had no idea the avalanche he'd just whistled into motion. Thursday night, 9:17 p.m. AB's executive Zoom room looked like a hostage negotiation, lit by ring lights and regret. CFO Gerald Monroe was sweating so hard the camera lens looked fogged. He kept adjusting his collar like it was tightening with every question. And the questions? Oh, they were knives dipped in caviar. What do you mean regulatory pause? How long has California been unverified? Why weren't we notified about the trial freeze until the partner sent the alert? But the line that finally sent the CFO into a full stammer tailspin came from Lawrence Grigsby, AB's most vocal investor, whose fund had just dropped another $12M in the Series C. We can't assign a $50 million valuation, he said slowly, clearly, like a guillotine blade being lowered, if your intellectual property is frozen across 3 jurisdictions. That's not an asset. That's a liability in a lab coat. Silence. Then Gerald stuttered something about temporary clerical misalignment and agent re-verification lag, which, to be fair, is a hell of a euphemism for we let a startup VP fiddle with legal filings like he was playing Minesweeper blindfolded. The general counsel, Max Patel, the only guy in the room with less ego than anxiety, was already 3 steps ahead. While the CFO tap-danced, Max shared his screen. He had pulled every state-level filing for CB 4097 and its 2 sister compounds. One by one, he clicked through the digital forms. California, New York, Missouri, Arizona. Each one had a change of agent filed within a 24-hour window. Each one listed the same name, Trent Barker. Each one showed verification letter. Not submitted. Max didn't say anything for a long moment. Just sat there, blinking. Then, this doesn't make sense. Nina always filed the verification letter the same day. More silence. He clicked open California's renewal form, the one I'd updated my last day. There it was, plain as a billboard, previous agent of record. Nina Collins updated agent. Trent Barker verification letter. Outstanding. He leaned forward, rubbed his eyes, and whispered, not to the camera, not to anyone specific, just out loud. Why would she transfer it to him and not submit the letter? She knows better. Someone on the call, possibly a board member, possibly a ghost, muttered, unless she didn't. Max's head snapped up. Unless she didn't what? Gerald asked. Unless she didn't submit it because she wasn't supposed to. The words hung there, ugly, heavy. Now it wasn't just about paperwork, it was about control. Because in biotech, the IP isn't just test tubes and trial data, it's licensure. You lose the license, you lose the trial. You lose the trial, you lose the value. You lose the value, you're just another lab with pretty branding and no runway. Max opened Slack. Searched, Trent Barker plus license transition. Nothing, no notes, no tasks, no assignments. He searched email, same result. Then he pinged HR, asked for the termination file for Nina Collins, time of departure. Last day of access, he read it twice. Her last login was the same hour the renewal was submitted, he said aloud. Gerald blinked. You think she left it that way on purpose? Max didn't answer right away. Instead, he opened the California licensing portal one more time, scrolled down to the submission metadata. And there it was, digital signature, form submitted by Nina Collins, edited agent, Trent Barker notes, org leadership transition per VP Barker, awaiting new agent documentation. Max exhaled slowly. She did what she was supposed to, he said. She transferred the responsibility. Accurately, legally. But Gerald whispered, eyes widening. He never finished the reauthorization process. Max nodded once. Which means we've got 4 frozen compounds, 2 halted trials, and a VP of Strategic Growth Initiatives, who just broke the chain of custody on our most valuable licenses. In the Zoom silence, someone's dog barked. Max turned off his camera and opened a blank Word doc. Subject line, urgent, regulatory chain compromised, immediate review required because now the legal dominoes were tipping. And Trent was about to find out just how fast evaluation can vanish when a form is filled out correctly and ignored. Friday morning, 6:38 a.m., 3 new emails, all flagged high priority in the general counsel's inbox. Subject lines read like smoke alarms in a burning house. Missouri licensing. Rejected Arizona Regulatory Office. Urgent agent verification, incomplete Massachusetts Health Board. Licensing review paused. Each message followed the same formula, slightly different fonts, slightly different seals, all carrying the same gut punch of bureaucratic dread. Your submitted renewal for biologic compound license hash redacted is incomplete. Verification letter for listed agent Trent Barker remains unreceived. Deadline missed. License is now in administrative suspension pending review. By 7:12, Max Patel, our GC, was on his second espresso, pacing the length of his office like it was a courtroom. His paralegal sat silently with a yellow legal pad while Max dictated names, dates, and digital signatures like a man digging his own shallow grave, but determined to make it neat. He pulled up a spreadsheet. Compliance chain active licensing by state. 28 states, 17 still processing, 9 now frozen, 2 more at risk, and at the heart of every rejected filing, authorized licensing agent, Trent Barker. The name burned like acid every time it showed up in a drop-down. Max finally called our outside regulatory consultant, Grace Yoon, a woman who'd survived 5 FDA raids, 3 whistleblower cases, and a divorce from a USDA inspector. Grace didn't do small talk. She answered the phone mid-sip. Tell me why I've got 3 different state regulators asking if ABG hired a new compliance firm and forgot to mention it. Max exhaled. We didn't, we had a transition. Our senior analyst was let go and the new VP, Trent Barker, was assigned as agent on the renewals. Long pause. Assigned by who? Nina, before she left. And Trent submitted the verification docs? No. Another pause, this one longer. Jesus Christ, Max, I know. Grace's voice dropped. You don't just name someone as a licensing agent and call it a day. There's a chain, there's authorization, there's re-verification. State compliance doesn't give a damn about your org chart. They care about signatures, notarization, and knowing exactly who's holding the legal liability bag if something goes wrong. I know, Max said again. Quieter? Do you understand what happens if this cascades? You've got pending trials, IP valuations, shared compounds between jurisdictions. If one state revokes, the feds can open a chain investigation. Your whole licensing loop is one thread away from unraveling. Max rubbed his face. We're already unraveling. Regulatory alerts continued pinging legal like hail on a tin roof. Finance started asking questions no one had answers to. Clinical ops went dark, holding their breath. And in the middle of it all, Trent, sweet, oblivious Trent, sent an all-staff message about exciting team-building opportunities at next week's offsite. Max didn't respond. He was already crafting a different message, one for the board. Subject line, immediate regulatory breach, IP at risk, but before he hit send, he opened the California renewal again. The form Nina had submitted. There, in plain digital ink, previous agent. Nina Collins updated agent. Trent Barker verification, outstanding reason for change, organizational leadership transition per VP Barker. That last line hit him like a kick to the ribs. Nina had followed protocol. She hadn't sabotaged a thing. She didn't destroy the chain, she passed it off just like she was supposed to. And Trent hadn't followed through, hadn't read the onboarding, hadn't lifted a finger to verify his role. Because in his mind, compliance was background noise. Now the entire orchestra was off-key, and the building was on fire. Max opened a group chat, just 3 names, the CEO, the coup, and himself. He typed, "We need to talk." Then he picked up his office phone and made the call he didn't want to make, get Nina back, quietly, immediately, and pray she still answers. The LinkedIn ping came while I was watering my aloe plant and pretending the silence in my apartment wasn't suffocating. Max Patel's assistant, "Hi Nina, hope you're well. Would you be open to a brief conversation sometime this week? GC's request, just to talk." I stared at the message, blinking twice. I hadn't opened LinkedIn in days. The last thing I posted was a generic farewell post that sounded more like a death announcement than a career move. After 9 wonderful years, I'm off to explore new adventures. Q3 likes and 1 unsolicited MLM invite. And now here they were. Just to talk, I didn't reply. 10 hours later, the email arrived in my personal inbox, formal and sterile like a subpoena. Subject, consulting engagement urgent from M. Padel at ABG Biosolutions. Nina, we'd like to discuss a short-term consulting opportunity regarding recent regulatory developments. Please advise availability at your convenience. Discretion appreciated. No apology. No explanation. Just desperation, dressed up in legalese. I didn't even blink. I chose the cafe 2 blocks from City Hall, where I knew no one from ABG ever dared park, too many meters, not enough valet. I wore a charcoal blazer over a black tee, no frills, the look of a woman with receipts. Max arrived looking like he'd slept in his office. His tie was loose. His briefcase had a frayed corner. The assistant trailed behind him, carrying a tablet and the kind of nervous energy you get when you're 1 meeting away from being someone's scapegoat. They sat. I didn't stand. No handshake. No pleasantries. "Thanks for meeting," Max started, voice low. I pulled a single sheet of paper from my bag, slid it across the table. He blinked. "What's this, my rate?" He picked it up, read it. His jaw didn't drop, but his assistant's did. I heard her whisper, "Is this hourly?" "No," I said, sipping my coffee. "That's weekly. Minimum 4 weeks, non-negotiable, and I report directly to legal. Not Trent, not ops, not anyone who thinks Slack threads are documentation." Max nodded slowly, like he knew arguing would be pointless. "There's also equity," I added. His eyebrows lifted. "Equity? 3-year vesting. 0.5% equity grant. I want to be invested in cleaning up the mess I was let go in the middle of, and I want board-level access to the compliance reporting chain. No red tape, no gatekeeping." The assistant typed furiously. Max looked around the cafe like someone might be filming this. "We'll need to get that approved." "No," I said. "You'll need to agree to get it approved. There's a difference." We sat in silence for a beat. The clinking of cutlery and distant espresso hisses were the only soundtrack. Finally, he nodded again. "All right. And Trent, what about him?" "I want him out of compliance access. I don't care if he leads the office yoga circle. Don't want him within 3 folders of the license database." "I'll handle it." "Good." I folded my hands in my lap, not out of tension, out of calculation, letting silence do what noise couldn't. Max stared at me, then leaned back. "You didn't sabotage us, did you?" I met his eyes. "No, I did exactly what my job required. I submitted the form. I followed protocol." The new VP didn't. He didn't press it, just nodded again. 3 times in 5 minutes. Man was a bobblehead of corporate guilt. I stood. They stood. The meeting was over. No hugs, no warm wishes, just a formal nod and the unmistakable shift in power. They came to me, and I didn't have to raise my voice, threaten legal action, or cry in a stairwell. I just waited. And now I was walking back into the building not with a badge, but with leverage. And the quiet kind of authority they never see coming until it's already behind the wheel. The boardroom smelled like panic sweat and lemon-scented wipes, the kind janitorial staff use when they're trying to erase a crime scene. Half the execs were glued to their phones, checking stock tickers that wouldn't stop bleeding. Others flipped through paper packets without reading a word, just hoping the rustle of pages sounded like productivity. At the head of the table, the CEO's chair was still empty. His flight back from Zurich had been delayed due to turbulence. Fitting. Trent sat near the window, tapping his pen like he was trying to Morse code a lifeline to anyone who still thought he was in control. Max Patel entered the room like a prosecutor about to drop the body. No coffee, no warm-up, just a stack of folders in one hand and a manila envelope under his arm. His face said one thing: enough. He didn't sit. He didn't clear his throat. Just slapped the top folder onto the table with a sound that made 2 people flinch. "Let's start with this," he said. "California. Renewal for biologic compound CB 4097. Form submitted June 30, 5:26 p.m. He opened the file and held it up. "Authorized licensing agent, Trent Barker." He let the words settle like dust. "Now here's the issue. This field used to say Nina Collins. Nina was our agent of record for all proprietary compounds, California, New York, Missouri, Massachusetts, the whole tree. She held the entire licensing structure together. Her filings, her credentials, her verification letters. All approved, all current, all maintained. Another folder slapped the table. Missouri rejected. Why? Because when the name changed to Trent Barker, no verification letter followed. No reauthorization submission. No state notarization. No anything? He tossed the folder like it burned his hand. Arizona, same. Thud, Massachusetts, delinquent. Whap. Trent started to speak, but Max cut him off with the flick of a finger. You made yourself the agent, but didn't authorize it legally. Didn't submit the forms. Didn't respond to state follow-ups. Didn't even ask what the process was. You assumed the title, and in doing so, severed the legal chain of custody for every license Nina maintained. A few execs exchanged glances. One muttered, "That's what tanked the valuation." Max didn't acknowledge it. "Let me be clear," he said. "This isn't a glitch. This is a compliance collapse. You broke the system because you didn't understand it. You thought it was admin work. You thought licensing was just pushing paper. And now?" He turned the envelope in his hands. Now MedStats pulled out of 2 trials. Regulators are investigating chain of custody breaches in 3 states. Our projected Q3 pipeline has evaporated. And our IP? Technically, it's in a state of limbo. Trent's voice cracked as he leaned forward. "Nobody told me I had to, that's the point," Max snapped. "You were never supposed to." Nina wasn't just a compliance analyst. She was the license. Her authority was embedded in every state-level filing. Her name was the signature that made this company credible. You fired her without understanding what you were firing. Dead silence. The kind that only follows the realization that the iceberg has already hit. Trent looked around the room for support. Found none. One VP scribbled something in his notebook. Another adjusted his cufflinks like he wished he was anywhere else. Max remained standing, hand on the final folder like it was a detonator. "I have already initiated emergency outreach to all affected regulators," he said, voice steady now. "And I've engaged a consultant, Nina Collins, to begin the repair process." Trent blinked. "You brought her back?" Max's jaw tightened. "She didn't want to come back, she was asked. With terms I signed. Because unlike you, I understand what happens when you pull a thread in a regulatory chain." He turned toward the conference room door. "CEO's landing in 30 minutes. I'll let him know where we stand." He walked out, no applause, just the soft, collective sound of a boardroom full of executives realizing they had bet the company on a man who thought agent of record was something you could become by accident. And outside that boardroom, Nina Collins was already logged into the portal, fixing what none of them understood, one form at a time. The CEO's face appeared in the center of the screen like a thundercloud with a Wi-Fi connection. Flight jacket still on, hair wind must. Bags under his eyes from the overnight Zurich red-eye, he looked like a man who had just landed on a burning runway and didn't yet realize the terminal was also on fire. "Status update," he barked. "What's happening with MedStat?" Silence. Max, the general counsel, didn't blink. His voice was low, steady, and final. "You want to know why our IP is frozen?" The CEO nodded once. Max turned slightly in his seat, not theatrical, not cruel, just clinical. "Ask him who he fired yesterday." All heads turned to Trent. Trent froze, no words, just a stammer starting in his throat that never found its way out. The CEO looked at him like he was trying to decipher a riddle written in bad decisions. "You fired Collins?" he said slowly. "The compliance agent, the one who handled our licensing tree?" Trent tried to speak. She was," HR said. "You fired her?" Trent opened his mouth again. The CEO didn't wait it out, no shouting, no desk pounding, just 2 words. The kind of words that don't require elevation because they come with consequences built in. Trent stood, wobbled for half a second, then shuffled out of the conference room with his tablet still open, screen still glowing with a Slack message he'd never get to reply to. The door closed behind him. And with that, the rest of the call continued without panic, without chaos. Just clean up. By Monday morning, signage outside my new office had been installed. Nina Collins, Chief Compliance Officer, not a cubicle, not a hot desk, an office, glass-walled, soundproof, oversight access logged directly into the board's quarterly review. I didn't decorate, no candles, no inspirational posters, just my laptop, my stack of restored files, and a single-sheet printout of the chain of custody map, now realigned. Max dropped by briefly, nodded, didn't stay long. No one else stopped in, I preferred it that way. My final task that day took 20 seconds. I logged into the admin system, opened the access dashboard, and searched Barker Trent status, active. I clicked. Drop down, terminate access confirmation. Are you sure? I clicked. Yes. A faint chime played like a toaster done cooking. And that was that. No revenge speech. No hallway confrontation. No dramatic slow clap. Just restored order. I leaned back in my chair, fingers steepled, watching the cursor blink. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. I didn't have to raise my voice. I just changed a name. The system did the rest. Big thanks for watching, you sneaky seniors. Subscribe to keep the coffee pot brewing revenge. Your ex-colleagues won't know what hit 'em.